Wait, are we rolling? Okay, great. It's all part of the film process, right? Hi, my name is Patrick Dempsey, and these are my film firsts with BAFTA. The first film I remember seeing ever, it's a wonderful memory because it was at school, and it was in the cafeteria, and it was a break right before Thanksgiving. And it was David Lean's Great Expectations. And I remember that movie so well, and it was so nice that I didn't have to be in class. And I just was completely lost in the story and moved by it. And it was a black and white film. And this is, of course, now before you had streaming, before you would see films. And I didn't get to go to the theater that much because I lived in the countryside. So it was a magical experience to just be lost in the film and to be carried away with that wonderful story. Interesting question. What is the first quote? It's a visual medium, so it's more the images. And I don't think it's the lines so much as it is the images. And I think it was really Lawrence of Arabia. I saw that early on because after seeing Great Expectations, I had discovered David Lean. And then I had an opportunity, for whatever reason, I don't know, this school was really into David Lean movies. And it was watching him look at his reflection in The Sword when he first put on, his outfit and he was out of his uniform and it was the desert and the dunes. I think it was images I remember. And that's what's so great about cinema. It's not so much what's being said, but what is the image and what does that image provoke emotionally? So I think maybe that's it. And then maybe Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. First TV show that I was obsessed with, let me think back to, they would have been network shows most likely, comedies, maybe it was, I guess it would be Happy Days or that era of TV shows maybe, because it would have been comedies and I wouldn't have been allowed to stay up too late. So it would have been around that period of time. And for some reason now it comes to me, Laverne and Shirley, that opening sequence, and then my father loved All in the Family, which was originally a British show, I believe. And I remember my father laughing at that and my mother, and that being an important show. And that maybe probably wasn't appropriate to watch at that age. I don't know. I don't really have one. First film that I shouldn't have seen. I think you're pretty well protected by then. Because growing up, you only had, you either went to the movie theater, you had ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. And PBS would always show the great black and white films of Errol Flynn, it was like sort of Turner Classics or Criteria, whatever it is now, where you would see the old movies. And you didn't have a lot of choices. So I remember watching a lot of those old vintage movies in the silent movies of that era on PBS, which was the public broadcasting system.
And do you have a character that you were maybe obsessed with growing up? The first character you were obsessed with?
Robin Hood. My first character was Errol Flynn in Robin Hood.
The cartoon Robin Hood?
No. The real movie with Errol Flynn. Oh, I know I'm old now. I'm really old.
We'll move on. What was the first film or TV show that made you think, I want to act?
I don't think I ever really, it wasn't the film, I don't think, that I wanted to. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was Oliver. I remember seeing Oliver for the first time. And I got a chance to work with Ollie Reed, which was really quite something. And Food, Glorious Food. And that movie maybe would have been it. But no, it didn't come to me until later that I wanted to be an actor. And that really was because I went to the theater. And it was the theater that made me want to become an actor. Sorry, that's BAFTA, and I know it's not film, but there's so many wonderful actors this year that are nominated that have fine-tuned their craft on stage and have really brought incredible performances in front of the camera because of all of the training that they've had on the stage. And I think as a young actor today, we need to spend more time on stage than worrying about our Instagram posts and that, and really learn your craft. And I think that's what's so special about the BAFTAs, is the rich history and the respect towards the craft of the stage and also the cinema.
Remember the first thing you ever acted in? It can be from a young age, maybe a homemade film, school play.
No, I was a terrible student. I was a dyslexic and still am, so it was always very hard. So I could never get into anything in school. So the first play I did was at a dinner theater, and it was on Golden Pond. And I remember bussing tables as well. And then I was the smallest one, so I would have to go under the stage and use the socket set to make sure that the stage was tightened. And that's when I kind of really fell in love with it. And I remember that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to become an actor. Because I certainly wasn't an academic. My first big audition, yes, it was in, I auditioned for a little commercial, I think, but my first audition in New York City was at the Helen Hayes Theater, and it was for a play called Torch Song Trilogy that was written by Harvey Fierstein, and I ended up getting it. And that moment changed my life forever. And had it not been for Harvey Fierstein, I would never have had a career, because it allowed me to, I had to fly in from Maine. I was doing an apprenticeship at the theater at Monmouth, which is this sort of Shakespearean repertory company. And, I was like stage carrier number 27 and doing it. And I had been performing as a juggler and a vaudevillian, and I had my own sort of show. And an agent had seen me and said, look, there's an opportunity for you to go into New York and audition for this play. Why don't you go try it? And that was my first audition, and I got it, and that started my career.
Do you remember the first line you ever said in a film or TV show?
The shitheads are coming. And it was for Heaven Help Us. And it was about a Catholic school story that Michael Dinner, Andrew McCarthy, Mary Stuart Masterson, they were in. Took place in the 60s, and I had only one or two lines, and they were all in this soda shop, and they were all smoking, and it was the head priest was coming to get everybody to catch them, and that was my one line. And I was so enthusiastic that I had no understanding of how to hit my mark at the time. So I had to do it multiple times. And that was my first line, is that the shitheads are coming. The first rom-com I did, I believe, was The Woo Woo Kid. And then after I finished that, it was Can't Buy Me Love. So Can't Buy Me Love was the first real film success that I had back in 1987 or something like that. There needs to be a bit of a resurgence of these rom-coms, and it's tough with the writing. And you can't help think of rom-coms without thinking about Hugh Grant, I think he's brilliant. And his career has been remarkable because he did so many serious films prior to that. But I think people, they want to laugh and they want to believe in love, and they want to know that that their Prince Charming or their princess is out there, and they want to be able to laugh about it and escape the realities of the world. Oh, I think the moment I realized how special Enchanted is, and it was when I read it. It was just so unique. And then the first moment that Amy was in costume and became Giselle, you knew you had something special in that. It was a Disney princess that we had never seen before, and it was a classic right away, with her singing and dancing, her movement and her joy and all of that. And I knew I was in big trouble because she just stole the movie beautifully. When I first read Memory of a Killer, it made me very, very anxiety-ridden because it made me start to think about my own mental health and, memory and all of that, and that I liked it and I thought it was an interesting, original idea. I had to make a decision very quickly because they were going to make an announcement, so I had to think fast. I ended up giving the script to my daughter and to my son and my wife to read, and I asked them, "What do you think?" And they all immediately said, "Do this show." I like to get their feedback because they watch a lot more television and a lot more films than I do, and they come at it differently. I come at it in a way that it's very hard for me to have perspective.